So we invaded Iraq, and we were using blitzkrieg tactics, and the problem is, as you may know, the Middle East has a lot of desert. Usually if it's not desert, it's mountain. And the problem is, how in this featureless expanse of desert are our soldiers going to find out where in the hell they're going? Because that is a legitimate problem. I'm sure somebody would say that, well, you use GPS. Well, funnily enough, because usually when you're talking about historical navigation, you got the youth these days talking about, why don't they just use GPS? Well, you know, GPS didn't exist. But this time, when you say, why didn't they just use GPS? There is actually... Oh, we got a new master. Well, inspector. Still not super supportive of that, of the usage of that term. Sounds too docile. Anyway. Oh, that's actually a recruitable dude, but we're gonna leave him here. I need soldiers right now, not captains. Well, I do need captains, just not in my unit at the moment. Now, where was I? My train of thought has completely derailed. Yes, GPS! So yes, our guys needed to navigate a featureless desert. How do they do it? How do they do it? Well, one solution theoretically is to navigate by the stars, but of course that is sort of dependent on it being dark enough to see them. Besides which, it's not exactly the most accurate means of navigation. It was fine for maritime sailors, they're just aiming for a landmass. But no, certain brainy guys got it in their heads, what if we put satellites in orbit that maintain a predictable position over the planet at, like, certain times, and we can use these satellites, you know, connecting to them via radio waves, to triangulate the position of something on the ground. And, well, what will we call it? Well, you know, if they are expansive enough, we can call it a global positioning system. I mean, I do find it funny that there are probably people out there who use GPS who don't actually know what the acronym means. I mean, for them, you know, you just hear GPS, and you know, oh, that's what lets you find where you're going, and it's like, it's the same sort of people who don't understand that, like, IBM is International Business Machines, or, I mean, AOL, America, it amazes me how short memory is these days. It's honestly a bit disappointing. I do have a theory on that. The problem is that we live in an era of information overload, and I am sort of sourcing Johnny Mnemonic's plot line, if you will. We live in an era of information overload. We are constantly bombarded by new information, new data. And the issue is that keeping up with it is more than a person can reasonably be expected to do. I mean, especially in the course of living one's life. I mean, a person dedicated to data analysis and storage and sorting could probably do it, but then that would be their life. And the problem is, we are bombarded with so much new data that our ability to store data, to reflect on data, to process data is gone, because there's never any time for it. Because the moment you have been exposed to this, you know, one new piece of data, surprise, surprise, there is another new piece of data that you now have to come to grips with. And it has created this incredibly short memory because we spend so much time trying to keep up with the new thing that it's impossible to remember the old thing. And I find that to be a very dangerous sort of social construct because we are, if nothing, built upon the foundations of discoveries and structures built before, and the acknowledgement of those things is important. Those who forget their past are doomed to repeat it. That saying goes all the way back to the BC era, before Anno Domini. I mean, you're telling me guys back then figured this out, and yet we today struggle? I mean, it also ties into the notion that ancient humans were probably individually more intelligent than modern humans. We have a larger communal library as a species, but the individual, because of the greater availability of information, is substantially less learned. Because it's simple. It's like, oh, if I don't know something, I'll read a book. Or, I suppose in the modern context, I'll use the internet. The problem is, it creates this habit of, I don't need to retain this information. In fact, I can't, because there's several new things that happened just today in the interwebs. The new memes, the new fads, the new craze, the new whatever. And so I don't have time to, to memorize this, to remember it. And why should I? Because I'll just use the internet. I created a bit of an adage, and it's kind of offensive to a lot of people, especially if they're just all gung-ho for the technology getting smarter, and put a computer in my eyeglasses, and stick a computer up my ass, and etc., etc. The phones get smarter, the people get dumber. It's sort of the notion of, now, in order to pass a math class, you don't even need to do the math. You just whip out a calculator. And the assertion is that, well, calculators are readily available. I mean, they're in everybody's phones. You can just have a calculator on you. Why would you need to do it in your head? It's like, I don't know, because maybe actually having a person intellectually process information should in and of itself be the point. Not just the idea of, oh, well, let's just be lazy about it. And I mean, don't misunderstand me. Math gives me as much of a headache as a lot of other people. In fact, math probably gives me more of a headache. Whatever part of my brain is responsible for crunching numbers is not terrific. However, I'm still more than capable of running equations and so forth on pen and paper. I don't need a calculator for that. Mind you, running complex equations on pen and paper. There's a good way to hurt your brain.
I'm right behind you.
Hey, soldier guy.
Help me to get out of here.
I don't... Try not to die when I secure the thing, guy. I want you on the team, but I don't want you following me. I probably shouldn't have even talked to you yet, but I did it stupid because I'm busy talking about the slow decline of intelligence. I mean, the broader issue that I suppose I'm addressing is the dependence upon technology. You're all very dependent upon technology, smart this, smart that, and the issue is that technology does not favor everybody equally. The very best technology will always be the reserve of the very wealthy and the very influential, and probably one of the things Cyberpunk got right was reflecting that story, because Cyberpunk as a genre, specifically, is about the notion of how technology will not remove humans from those things that are innately human. We will still be greedy, we will still be, harsh to our fellow man. Technology will not make us less violent, technology will not make us less profiteering. Technology cannot save us from ourselves, is the point of a cyberpunk story. And the term often applied with that story is high-tech low-life. And I mean, Cyberpunk has a good contextual framework for that in terms of the story, because the Arasaka Corporation has a built-in sort of death insurance policy where wealthy, influential people can spend a bundle, but secure their life after death, their digital immortality, within the Mikoshin servers. And it literally is a thing that is exclusively for the super rich. And it's like, well, if this technology exists, why can't everybody have it? Well, because the technology is incredibly complex, and besides which, why would a corporation give a technology away when they can turn a profit? I mean, I don't even attribute that type of sort of corporate greed to a lack of morals or ethics either, because those can be debated until doomsday. I attribute it to a lack of perception, a lack of intelligence. We live in a meta-contextual universe in which we as a species have to face problems as a species in an existential plane, and fundamentally the selfish strategy is very effective in the short term, but it creates no consideration for the long-term consequences of things. I mean, there is legitimate merit in making the world a better place. For yourself, if for nothing else. That is an interesting choice of machine gun. Browning M1917. The model designation was the year it was created, and anybody who's played like a World War II shooter might be familiar with the Browning M1919. The M1919 was an air-cooled, slightly modernized version of the M1917. The M1917 is water-cooled, and it is accurately depicted here with the cooling jacket, although I do not believe that there was a hip-fireable, man-portable version of the M1917 that was ever put together. Interestingly, there were versions of the Browning configured that way, with a carry handle and a shoulder stock and a pistol grip and everything else. That was the Germans' quote light machine gun for World War I, but it wasn't until World War II that we started trying to make a light machine gun version of the Browning, but that was a version of the M1919. The M1917 really couldn't be portable because it's water-cooled. You've got that huge can at the front that's got probably like 4 gallons of water in it. Not to mention you have a machine gun that is, in and of itself, probably like 15, 20 pounds, and the ammunition. That's not exactly practical to go running around with. Now, I'd love to invest in that, but this zone is still accumulating threat. I need to invest in tower defenses, and that's probably going to clean me out, because this particular area is supposed to have double rockets, and they are pricey. I don't even have the soldiers for that, which means that first I have to make a side journey to the reservation. Can I dismiss, guys? Well, I don't need to. I actually have enough thing now. I'd love to upgrade that, but well, I could have the money for it. This is why I can't upgrade weapons, because I end up spending all of it getting this stuff together. So, the shelter upgrade, this is sort of becoming our bastion of defense. The shelter is fully upgraded. I would love to get the tower bumped up a bit. Unfortunately, the last attempt at that did not go so well. Surprise. Besides, we need to shore up our defenses here. We're getting +7 threat a day. That's nothing to scoff at. So let's get... what do we need? Soldiers? Extra soldiers. Maybe throw a captain in there, because we got room for some people now.
Hey there. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Probably get an engineer in there.
Glad you came.
Wanna join us too, science men? Alright, that's a
Glad you
builder. This
came.
is an engineer, even though I'm not entirely sure what qualifies someone as builder.
Glad you came. Hey there.
Soldier. I can
Good
clear
to
this
see you.
camp out from soldiers. I probably will. We'll need them for everything. They are probably the most commonly expended unit for anything.
Glad
You
you
need them
came.
for tower upgrades. You need them for militia upgrades.
Good to see you. This will not work.
Ah, we have maxed out. Alright, well, off we go. Still don't have a sprint. Is that upgrade available? I'll have to check after this mission. I mean, probably. Probably can't afford it, though. Okay, we do have sprint. Can afford it, and I think we'll just get the first level of that, just to, you know, have the first level of that. Teammates more effective in combat. That's not super. That is a good, decent price at the moment, and I definitely need to be a bit heartier. Oh, right, there is armor available already. Oof, I'd love to, it's just too expensive. I need that money for other things, as per usual. Yes, full stock, full this. That's a high danger level at the moment. Rocket, gun. Think so. Rocket, yeah. Build a rocket. Stick it in there. Now's a time where I'm probably going to wish I had the machine gun. Yeah, there's a few reasons why the Enfield is one of the fastest bolt actions that was built. For one, it's rear locking, which means that the lugs on the bolt lock at its back portion with the body of the bolt supporting the pressure of the cartridge firing, whereas traditionally bolts front lock, so the lugs are at the front of the bolt. Now, if rear-locking lugs are faster to operate, why don't they all do that, is the usual follow-up question. Well, the problem with rear-locking is that it is a weaker, mechanically designed, than a front-locking bolt. You can get away with it with most cartridges, but the amount of material you'll need in the bolt to make it function is more significant, which means that disproportionately, as you're firing larger cartridges, you end up needing more and more material in the bolt to support the pressure firing. So what you're basically doing is supporting the bolt at the rear, and then the actual pressure of firing is being distributed through the bolt body as a shaft, as a column. The thing is, with front-locking designs, you need locking recesses built into the back of the barrel. So first your bolt head has to clear those recesses, and then the bullet itself has to come out and clear those recesses in order to be ejected. And then it has to go through them on the roundabout in reverse. Like, that's how that works. The thing is, with a rear locking design, you don't need locking lugs at the front, which means that as soon as you start pulling the bolt out of position, you're pulling the cartridge right out of the barrel, because there's no recesses there. So that's a shorter bolt pull. In addition, the Enfield was a cock-on closing design, which meant that the firing pin would catch as the bolt was being closed and be recocked, whereas a lot of designs are cock-on opening, which use cams and levers and all sorts of other weird shit. The benefit of cock-on closing is that when you're forcing the bolt closed, you're usually applying a lot of force, a lot of pressure behind it, which helps to keep it, you know, you don't really even notice that you're cocking it when you're closing it in that fashion. Whereas with cock-on opening, you're trying to physically wrench the bolt open, you're trying to rotate it, and you're having to fight the firing pin spring, so that slows you down. And then there's just the availability of the bolt handle downturned and slightly rearward facing compared to the trigger, where for really rapid fire, you'd wrap your index finger and your thumb around the bolt handle, pull the trigger with your middle finger, and then you could come you're on the bolt handle already. You wouldn't even have to come off the rifle stock. Work the action, middle finger, fire, work the action. And basically, combined with the Enfield's 10-round magazine, whereas a lot of bolt actions at the time had 5-round magazines, the Enfield could fire very quickly. Great for suppressing the enemy with rifle fire. Yeah, that's pricey, but an explosive option might make all the difference right now. But again, I am reluctant to buy anything on account of gold situation. I still need to set up barracks here and train soldiers here, because we still have a danger increase rate of 5. Now, I'm not entirely sure why cock on opening is the more popular design compared to cock on closing, because cock on closing does seem like it makes more sense, because again, you are like throwing the bolt forward, and so you don't even really notice the extra spring resistance, whereas trying to wrench the bolt open, which usually also involves camming the cartridge out, having any like extra resistance there just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Then again, I'm only studied as an engineer, I'm not actually certified as one, so there's probably some reason. Now, unfortunately, while the Enfield rifle had a magazine capacity of 10, and was easily removable without having to go through any steps of disassembly, the stripper clips that were used to charge the magazine were usually only 5 rounds, which means you'd have to run through 2 stripper clips to fully charge the 10-round magazine. Wasn't too bad. I mean, from the starters, you're starting off with more ammo capacity than your contemporaries, and that's really what you want in the grand scheme of things. I don't know how many soldiers we have. We might be able to get the second level on that facility, but... danger level of +2. Sort of keeping it manageable. Unfortunately, the price we're paying there is that our industry is non-existent. But you can kind of see the meta they were going for, which is why this has gone from player creative agency to simply operating the machine correctly, which I am. I'm turning the handle and waiting for the jack to pop out of the box. Because I could do a tower attack and start moving into Central Zone and basically do what I've done with all these other locations of just not even improving the factory and focusing on locking a position down. But, I mean, that's going to become less effective because the passive threat level, regardless of the danger level for later zones, is increased. And we're also going to start running into the damn mutants, which are not as easy to handle as the zombies. So if we do get a second shelter upgrade in there, which I narrowly can't afford. So what are we thinking? Maybe a tower assault, unlock the middle zone? It's the only way I can make money right now. We still have 3 soldiers. There's also the fact that at some point I'm quite literally just going to have to ramble through all of these areas again on the sole grounds of just finding more recruits, because even once you've completely plundered the map, you're not going to have enough people for all the upgrades that you want to get, which is the problem. Yeah, I guess we'll take our sniper thing and we'll do one of those. Now I'll call it quits, because I don't know how long I've been at this, but I was tired when I started, and I'm even more tired now. not hit the barrel? There we go. You know, 50 caliber in use on human targets makes absolutely no sense because it is egregiously excessive in terms of, like, killing somebody. But on a zombie, it actually makes sense because you wouldn't even necessarily need to headshot a zombie. A 50 caliber would cause so much physical disruption of their bodies that, you know, they would be completely incapable of doing anything after you blasted them. Oh. 42 short of being able to do that, huh? Not just my luck.